people, welcome back to another review for Voltron. This time we're checking out Season 7, a few more episodes than we had initially, I think, thought. This is Ian here along with Chris.
Hey,
what's up? You know, this is a series that we've had great things to say about. This is something that Chris got me into that I want to hit myself over the head with something for not getting into earlier. It's been a lot of fun as a fellow mecha fan and all the cool stuff we have going on here, but definitely some twists and turns here in Season 7. Some things that didn't expect. For better or for worse, though, well, have a listen. We're going to tell you what we think.
I'm glad to hear you still feel that way after this season.
I just, one season can do a lot of damage. It can also do a lot of good for a series, but what? I've never been one. If I've seen consistently, season after season, of something I've enjoyed, I've never been one to hang something out to dry until I see the very end of it. I say, you know what? At this point, I can't call you complete crap because I want to see how this ends. I want to see how this shakes out. You deserve that much respect at least. So,
Season 7. Definitely, I think, is the weakest season so far, despite the fact that it is actually a full season of 13 episodes.
Right.
I am not a big fan at all of Season 7.
Reasonably so. I mean, do I understand it? My problems, while speckled throughout, my biggest problems with this comes towards the latter end. And I think I'm going to frame this. To be fair, I think there's a good setup where you're looking at finally, okay, here we have things based. We're going to be taking that trip back to Earth. Essentially, you're going to have this sort of space road trip. And this is a
space road trip.
And this is a crew that can sort of get away with that kind of thing that you could just see happening. I kind of thought back and I'm like, yeah, in Gundam or Evangelion or something, I couldn't see this happening. This is something unique to this crew that just works. I think you could do that, but it's more in the execution, those elements. So let's base it. So here we are. The Voltrons come out of the quintessence, the epic battle against Prince Lotor, who still has not come out. In fact, to the Voltron team, what seemed like maybe moments, minutes, maybe hours, even about 3 years have passed of actual time. The Galwar Empire is broken down into factions at this point, warring against themselves. Of course, everybody's looking for Voltron, though, and also Lotor, and things just don't quite seem cheery. Things are kind of bleak. The team wants to get back to Earth, but can't find any transmissions, and really trying to piece together why is there this huge gap, which is a good setup. I think it leaves a good setup for the season and where things could go, but pretty quickly, though, as we get this whole journey underway, I think a lot of little glaring issues start to creep up.
Very early on. If I was to use one word to describe this whole season, it would be contrived.
Mm-hmm.
Right from the start, the whole 3 years. Why 3 years? We're low on energy. I've seen Voltron come back to some pretty crazy stuff before.
Yeah.
Why are you low energy? What's up with the whole low energy thing? This whole season was just one excuse after the other. And look, I understand storytelling is basically that. You have your setup for your execution for the story you want to tell. Voltron has done a fantastic job in the world that it's built for itself of executing this masterfully.
Yeah.
And in this season, they kept tripping over themselves, I felt. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was like, okay, well, you've built this world and you've built these characters and these things that they interact with and they use, and now it's like, okay, well, yeah, you for the story that you're trying to tell and how you're trying to tell it in Season 7, you are tripping over yourself constantly.
So let's look at some of those. I want to look at some of the small, I guess, some of the smaller examples first. Now that we've actually seen it in action, by it I mean let's say Cosmic Wolf. What do you think of Keith's cosmic pet?
Cosmo.
Thank you.
Yeah, his name's Cosmo.
Is Cosmo fully? Oh man, I goofed that up.
Well,
Okay.
you know, they didn't actually say. Some of them said his name's Cosmo, but then some said that it's not. So,
Right.
well, Cosmo's fine. I actually don't mind Cosmo.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmo's good. My issues come with basically the major plots of the story and how they execute these things. And like you and I had talked about briefly before we started recording the review, the ending, the last few episodes are just they're just bad. They're just bad. You know, as far as the storytelling, let me say what's consistent and what is really good. And what I enjoyed, as I usually do with Voltron. The animation's great.
Yes, it is.
The issues that we complained about a couple of reviews ago continue to not poke their head anymore. Animation's great. The voice acting is great.
Yep.
The sounds, the score, all of it, really good. It does a really good job of immersing you into this fantastic world.
Yeah, and
as it always does.
And real quick too, in the score, one thing that it hit me more here, just defining, I think what's been good about that. The score, in large part, especially during the space exploration, is very ambient, but it's ambient in such a way that it kind of takes you back to that old school '80s vibe, while just having a very new school style environment. That's a cool mix. Not everything can pull that off without it coming off as kind of corny sounding or whatever, but it's just funny that the kind of really light ambience they has hits high notes when it needs to. When you have a character revelation or something positive happening, you'll notice a kind of uptick. In the same hand, you'll notice if something dramatic happens, you'll have a shift in that. So the audio wise, this feels really natural. In fact, so natural you won't always notice it. You don't pay any attention to it. So cool.
Yeah. Now that's about all the good stuff I have to say. And that's my problem with this, especially coming off of season 6, which I probably think is the best season that they've had. I raved about that. I thought it was so good. And the storytelling that they did, it completely different, where they had used everything that they'd built up for seasons past.
Precisely.
Up until the conclusions that we had in season 6. And it seems very much like, okay, well, so now we have the rest of this, and now we have to do something with it.
Yep.
And, you know, they had such a great opportunity to do some really strong storytelling with, okay, they're going to Earth, and there's these issues because, like our usual TV show reviews, we're going to spoil. So, they're going to Earth, but it's already been taken over. There's already all kinds of issues, which, by the way, the whole thing with The Last Stand Part 1 and 2 was very hit or miss. I thought there was some cool elements to that, but at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, we're a futuristic post-apocalyptic world now, which I thought was cool that they went into that world,
right?
And they took us there, but the sense of scale, as far as the destruction and the kind of forces that they have, they would tell you about rules of engagement for some situations, but then completely ignore them for others.
Right.
It was off. The storytelling in this season was just off, and not even just a little bit, but a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, like you said, it starts almost at the beginning. Well, it's been 3 years. Why?
Right.
Why has it been 3 years? Okay, I'm willing to accept that. They're setting this up,
right,
and that's okay. And then, the Lions are almost out of power. Okay, and they can't recharge themselves because the castle's gone.
Right.
Okay. I could have sworn they've dealt with this before.
Yes, they have.
But okay, and then it's like 4 episodes in. Shiro's like, oh yeah. And Lance is right. Why didn't you say something about this earlier?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you know what? This all feels too convenient.
Mm-hmm.
It really does feel like somebody on the writing staff was like, you know what? I don't think this works as a story. And then when they bring up that whole thing about how Voltron can recharge himself, even that whole story just seems kind of messed up.
Yeah, it's the established rules about things we have. There's 1 or 2 things early on you can let slip, such as the time passage, even though that needs a little bit more explanation of the perils of being in a quintessence field and things like that and what it can do. And then of course having the opposite effect of draining. I thought the Voltron was going to be supercharged after that for a long arse time, something crazy like that. But it wasn't.
Yeah, when they were in a quintessence dimension, basically.
Yeah,
should have been oozing power.
Yeah, and I think not loosely defining or sort of shifting those canon rules so late in the game is sort of strange. And I think just the quick appearance and then disappearance of some things too. I thought it was really interesting to frame the sort of defection or the rebellion inside of Lotor's own generals. They're really doing their own thing at this point. Two of them have teamed up. One doesn't want to, and I just feel her reasons aren't really fully fleshed out for that. I mean, we're talking someone who lock stock was following Lotor and then just saying, I did some thought about it, and he really wasn't the guy I thought he was. He was just after power, but I want to help you. And it's just,
yep.
I think if there had been, I'd understand if there had been, I think, more of especially a connection built up between her and Keith earlier on, and that's something that we could have naturally flowed more into. That would have made more sense. That was sudden, but as sudden as I introduced, that's gone. You don't. There's nothing else from them for the rest of the season. We're on to the next thing. And by the time we make it all the way to Earth, and then hiding the lions on Saturn, leaving them there to go and do the information gathering part. I have thought, I'm like, are they just going to go ahead and just bust into the Galwar fleet and just start wrecking stuff? But they didn't. They take the time to do the info gathering. And I think part of that is for the audience to say, hey, here's what the world's like. Here's what's happening. Here's the situation. Here's all this. But again, just a lot of things out of left field. Shiro is stabilized, of course, but later on you have the whole thing about his new arm. What'd you make of that?
I hate his new arm.
I don't like it either. I saw that, and the thing I couldn't help but think, I saw it and I said, okay, he's all right. He has to go against the Galwar General now. He has to, because the other guy's got a funny arm too. So who's going to?
By the way, can we comment on something which was a big deal that was made out of before the season started, which is that Shiro's gay? Do you care?
It doesn't. It doesn't affect me.
I don't care
in a meaningful way at all. I mean, we had the hints at that, earlier on, but this is sort of the field that really solidifies it and says, hey, right here, this was his partner, this is what he went through, and whatever. Just
because they made a big deal out of it beforehand, a lot of people made a big deal of it. So
yeah,
all right,
whatever.
We commented, zero shits given.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on.
Done deal. But no, you have that with the Shiro's new arm and everything like that, and the whole idea of his consciousness adapting to the clone and stuff like that.
Right. So now let me, if you don't mind, I would like to expound on something a little bit. The whole thing about technology and using Earth technology versus Althean, it's what are they called?
Altean?
Alteans, the Altean technology and all that, and intertwining it. I thought there was some interesting stuff there, but then at the end, and I'm sure we'll save the end for a little bit here.
Yeah.
Then it's like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and again, interesting premise.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good stuff here, but then it just goes crazy, and none of it makes any sense. And the difference in power levels between what Earth is versus what's the other race?
The Galwar tech?
Galwar.
Yeah.
In the Galwar is ridiculously stupid. It's you're not just like it's so. No, I mean, look, you're writing this in a very poor way. There's no reason to make things look so weak and so desperate. It just, for the first time in watching this series, there was some really lazy decisions made.
Mm. And the thing that really I think comes to the foreground about that when you're talking about the integration of tech and things like that, you look at the chain of command as well, and sort of the oddly enough, the lack of push to sort of get everyone in on a collaborative feat like this. You think if there's enough reasonable, intelligible data to tell you that there is a threat, there is a pending invasion coming, that the last thing you want to do would be cut off your own resources. to cut off others from helping or to aid. The whole that whole process, I think, was a kind of irony. I mean, I see where they want to go to make things. I think making that whole desperation being built from, oh, well, okay, here's part of our repercussions for not telling the world this was going to be a thing and for not asking for more help earlier. Now we're in the situation where there's only one base that actually has something that can fight against this stuff. We're desperate, but I don't think that has to be, especially when you don't even have the full host and complement and feature of the things Earth has to offer. It felt more like the tech being integrated was like a 70-30 ratio. I felt like 70% Altean, 30% Earth, and I'm like, we're at this stage, and did you hear anything mentioned about nukes or railguns or any?
No, but they made a mention at one point about the railroad system that was put in during World War III.
Right.
Which, okay, so I can accept that since World War III has happened, because we're not very clear on where we are in Earth, obviously it's in the future, that nukes are probably gone now, having that war having had happened.
Right. So, but it's just still, this is where things, I think, start to get pretty shaky for this. And by the time the team does reach it, there's a little bit of drama. You're wondering, oh man, is it wiped out? Are they just waiting them out? What's going to be the time frame? By the time the team actually does reach it, they see the full scope of what we have, and then we launch into really an all-out battle against the Galra. Now, I do want to mention there's some interesting winks here at some other mecha series. I felt the original Mobile Suit Gundam very strong this season. That is with the classic white base and Amuro Ray's Gundam. I cannot help but feel that from what they used.
All right, I'll see your Mobile Suit Gundam, and I'll raise you some Rick and Morty.
Deal.
There's definitely some times where it felt like Rick and Morty, especially that episode with the game show.
Yes.
And just all the really crazy names and stuff, and the Styx character that seemed like Pencil Dexter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Definitely some references there. There was definitely some nods to Rick and Morty in that.
Yeah.
Also, Independence Day.
Yep.
Especially when the ships are when they first shoot some rockets at the invading Gulra ship. And it does nothing. I mean, that almost that whole frame looked just like it came out of Independence Day.
Oh man! And then another.
Here, I got another one too. Transformers.
There you go.
But we'll talk about that later, because I have a feeling that we're both going to rail on that at the end here.
I think that's going to be our sticking point. But yeah, you've got sort of the context of Earth kind of generally framed here. You've got a couple reunions that happen. Pidge finally getting a chance to see both his parents together. Hunk, if anything, trying to actually find the whereabouts of his family. His is one thing. I will jump back on a positive here. I do enjoy the other semi-Altean they have with them, Ramel. I think she's fun. I also enjoyed a little bit more on sort of the simplicity of Hank, but it's fun. Him as a character. I thought
he's great.
Yeah, he shined well. This is his season. He shined well earlier on in it. So, yeah, that I liked. But
yeah, it's kind of funny though. There's some references from both the Garrison side as well as the Lion side about teamwork and working as a team.
Yeah,
but God, those people did not work well together, did they?
They didn't. That's what comes down to the command issue. That's what gets me. It's like this is a really tough scenario. It doesn't seem like to be the time to be jockeying like this, but it happens, and just the chain is just so poor. And then the admiral turning them in, turning on them.
Come on, that was so weak.
Come on.
I mean, I get it, and that's a very that kind of situation we've seen in film and TV time and again. But given the scenario that they had built up to that point, that just did not seem appropriate at all.
No. And then not even to get to logistics of that, I couldn't help but smile. I said, okay, a base on that tight lockdown, no one detected a launch, going to space. No one saw a convoy of Galra escorting her. No one. Yeah, we just don't know where the acting admiral is. Okay.
So let me, before we get into Atlas, because I think we should talk about Atlas last, because that's very special.
That's a bag of worms.
Yeah. So look, I get it, and one of the themes that I like about Voltron that I do get is the constant. While it's not driven into our skulls with a nail and hammer, the whole thing about teamwork and trust and friends, and there's uplifting tones in the story about working together and believing in one another and ourselves. I'm good with that. I enjoy that part of the show. But what we saw in like the last several episodes, the last half,
Yeah.
I mean, it got beyond the point of ridiculous. And it's like, so Voltron gets hit with 5 or 6 guns that are world enders. Literally,
Yeah.
it will destroy a planet, and it's immobile, but not a scratch.
Nope.
And the world ender, and it doesn't even kill them. It doesn't. I mean, and not that I want them to die,
Right.
but again, this is they didn't even have to do that. There's so but then, and then that stupid robot at the end. They didn't even give it a name. They didn't give it a name, did they?
No. And there are so many problems with that. Look, this felt more like the entry of some random last boss on an unannounced game than an actual story plot. I was thinking of Ibis from Armored Core, if anything, but still that's not enough to stand for it.
But they're getting too literal with it. They're like, look, guys, close your eyes and hope real hard. And it's, oh my, look, I get it. And again, I'm pro for the themes in this show, but I guess it's because they went to Earth, and again, they've written these rules for these things, and it's just like, oh my god, you're going way too far. You're jumping the shark. You're jumping the damn moon here.
Yeah.
And this was just lazy. It felt like there was a lack of thought. It's like, look, if you want to tell this story, you could do it in a different and better way. You've been doing it for 6 seasons.
Very well, I knew.
Yeah, but it's just like, no, guys, we gotta get full of hope and teamwork one more time. And it's like, oh my god, friendship is magic, motherfucker. There's already a show with a bunch of horses that do that. And I know I said an F-bomb, but it was very deserved.
Oh no, it's like we get it, man. It's driven home to such a crazy degree, especially as you pointed out, that last enemy that appears. That is such a out of left field random.
And why is that so much more powerful?
I don't. Look, in most, actually, the level of storytelling they built up in this series, you would expect some kind of premonition, some kind of pre-explanation, some hint at that kind of tech. The first thing I thought, the first second of that frame I saw, and I kept looking at this throughout the season. I thought there were little cuts and flashes. I'm like, oh, is that Lotor breaking out of the quintessence field? Did he find a way to track him? Is something crazy happening? Because we just saw the original Emperor, his father, pull some crazy stuff when he came back out, and the whole sorcery that was worked over him and everything. But nothing happens with that, and instead we get this ridiculously powered super mech that has no origin, nothing. It just sort of appears after the Armada space battle and just goes to the throat for both Voltron and the Atlas, and really anything they can throw at this point. Their specialized jets and everything, and it's just, I was literally just holding my head during this, and just saying, wait, what is this? Where's the precedent for it? Where does this come from? Why is it using that? Why is it? It was just really just a bunch of whys, and we still don't get any answers to that at the end. Even more disturbing. A lot of the main battles in Voltron have been so, I think, thrilling because you have characters that we've kind of grown to invest in, villains that you either get behind or that you really want to see the team beat. And I look at Lotor and I look at the previous Emperor, but then we don't even know who this is. There's not a word said, nothing. Is this piloted? Is it not piloted? It pretty much felt like an empty slate super boss out of nowhere.
And it basically was.
Yes.
And I will give it props because at the very end they do show their what I'm sorry, what's that race again?
An Altean.
Alteans. For some reason I don't catch on that. There's an Altean in there,
right?
And they referenced it once before when they're talking to the Blades. that
Right.
they went to check on that Altean, all those Alteans on that planet, and they were all gone.
Right.
And that's one of two things left in the series, which is what happened to those Alteans, and what's her name, Hagar?
Right.
Yeah, Supreme Leader Hagar. So, and that was something we said at the end of season 6 was that, Hagar's still out there.
Yep.
And they mentioned at one time, they said Supreme Leader Hagar.
Yep.
And so, and obviously, well, I guess not obviously, maybe not, but I would presume that she's the one that sent Super Robot. And
Right.
so if you make that conclusion, then she's got the Alteans.
Right.
So, which she is one.
Exactly.
So, it's... okay, but they didn't. Yeah, they didn't need to do it. It just felt like that whole thing was just added on and it was garbage.
And the Atlas transformation, they're in it.
What? I'm just, I'm watching this and I'm like, there's been talk about the White Lion, and I don't know much about the White Lion. And look at Shiro, he's all white now. He's looking at all the white stuff, and he's in white. His new armor is white, and it glows white, and his hair is white, and and then I'm, he's captain of the Atlas. I mean, okay, well, this is where they're going to go with this. All right, so this is kind of his thing. He's the ship guy now, and that's what he's going to do, which is good because you're missing some connections for your arm there. So, and then it transformed.
Yeah.
And I gave up on the whole White Line thing, but then it's a freaking transformer.
Yep.
And again, I don't know. I remember the original Voltron series from the 80s. I don't remember anything about Atlas or what that is or if it transformed or not. So I don't know if it's a reference or not. I don't care. This was stupid. This ship was just made in the last year by humans. All right. There's no reference to it transforming.
No.
There's no reference to some kind of superpower that it can. As far as I can tell, it actually wasn't intended to do so, but all of a sudden now can.
Right.
That's dumb.
Yeah, this is really out of the blue. Look, funniest thing, now this was a nod to, I thought it was a nod to actually one of my favorite mecha anime of all time, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, or just Gurren Lagann for short.
Oh my God, God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. There's a part late series for any of you who've actually seen it where the one of the planetary escape vessels, the main one where they're housing the rest of humanity, goes through this type of transformation. But the point is, there's grounds for it. There's precedent because we've seen similar types of transformations happening, and there's already like hints of the schematics and everyone who they've been fighting. It's enough of a foundation built to know that something crazy can happen, and it does, and it's fine because it works. But like you said, unless that there was something schematic wise where this was just integrated and just designed into it, which I find hard to believe considering that they didn't have a way to power this thing to even to even test this before. Like,
they couldn't even get it to fly,
no,
let alone transform.
No, it's just there. I mean, as grand and
so the crystal did it, which makes sense because I remember the castle transformed all the time.
Exactly.
What?
So as grand as that is, that's another just out of nowhere that I just don't see grounds for this. So
yeah, right. I mean, and again, I get it. The theme of it is, hey, he's got to help his friend. It's the darkest hour,
right?
And it's their only hope. And through friendship and hope and doing what's right, we're going to be able to do something we could never do before. We never knew we had it in us.
Right.
No, you're going too far here. Look, and it made it. See, and I think part of it is because it made more sense in space, and in the early seasons, it made more sense because we're still learning what Voltron does, and we learned new things about Voltron this time too. We could make two blades. It wasn't that an even bigger rocket pack on his back.
Oh yeah, those boosters were intense.
And you're going too far. You're going too far. All right, it's you keep one-upping things, and what it's going to do, if you haven't already done it, is it then makes everything... You're teaching us that every conflict will have the same kind of resolution. At the end of the day, just close your eyes and hope real hard.
Exactly.
And it looks like there was a good resolution to the end there, and then the whole thing with that robot and... the Atlas transforming. It's like somebody over at Netflix, and Netflix exec that hold of is like, do it bigger,
Yeah.
more cowbell. It's like,
yeah, Gurren Lagann series like that can afford it because they have the type of narrative that builds into it. I think Voltron does itself a service of purposely staying kind of grounded, in universe with that. So,
and I'll pay an extra $10 a month until season 8 if I can get some freaking battle damage on something.
Right. No, dude, I hear you. As you said, I didn't know what the result of tanking an apocalyptic multi-death ray was going to be on Voltron. But no, just break the lines apart.
Yeah, just the eyes kind of went out.
Yeah.
The eyes dipped down, and everybody in the cockpit's okay. I'm sure the cow's still alive. The cow's still in there somewhere, despite all that.
Ah, boy. So,
but that would be awesome if, like, the one thing decided, like, the cow, it's just in pieces. It's one of the bloody mess. Oh, the cow didn't make it. All right, well,
all right.
No, but just good. Yeah, you jumped the shark, you jumped the moon on this one, and unfortunately, the lazy writing just got to the point where you're making it all seem like none of it matters.
So, all right. Well, at the end of the day, where are we standing on this out of 10? Because I know we usually
well, we do for TVs we give up to 5.
5? Okay, deal. Where are we standing on this out of 5? What do you think?
Well, I've been sitting on this. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a 2.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Did I give this a 4.5 last time for season 6? Yeah.
You did.
Well, you lost a lot of points since then.
Golly.
In a full season 2, you actually went up a whole point. You actually went up a quarter or half a point for me just because you gave me a full season.
Right.
But then you lost it with the Shiro garbage.
Right.
Literally, that's where that came from. It was like, well, I like this. No, the Shiro stuff. It really dropped the ball with him.
There's a lot of far reaches for me on this one. It's enough to keep things sustained. At this point, I really want to just see where the rest of this is heading, or at least how they're going to wrap it up. But still, with all the downdrafts and things in mind, I'll give it a 3.
You're going to give it a 3. I'll give it a 2.
Yeah.
They got some ground to make up for.
They do.
They're similar to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like, oh, you got to make up for some mistakes. Ooh,
yeah.
Not nearly as bad, mind you.
Right. They're not as brave, but they need to be careful from here out.
This is right. And if next season is the last season, that might be for the best. And I remember when you told me about that last month, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why? And maybe that's for the best, though. If this gets to the point, if we're going all Power Rangers with this thing, and everything gets more powerful as things get more dire week in and week out to the point where it doesn't mean anything, and maybe you are just trying to sell some toys, which it seemed like you weren't trying to do. I haven't seen a huge catalog of toys for this, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I missed that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all that's going on here.
So, all right. But hey, what do you think out there? This one that just bombed for you? Is this a season that you love? Hey, whatever it is, we want to hear from you. Let us know. Drop us a line in the comments below, and hey, smash that like button and that subscribe button. We want to keep delivering this kind of content for you guys, and with better and better quality as we go on. So stay tuned right here. Of course, it's going to be some time before we actually can get a hold of Season 8 to review that and go over it. But
are you sure? It might come out in 2 weeks.
Yes, for all we know, right?
That was a quick turnaround from 6 to 7.
It was. But hey, when we get it, you will be the first to know. But until then, thank you all for tuning in. Take it easy. Have a good one. Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, or anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksongmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, pick up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.